Are you here to help us?
Yes, we are allies.
The galaxy held its breath for 73 standard cycles, while two species annihilated each other
We
over
stand
a rock.
together.
A worthless
As
rock.
allies.
A
Our
rock
strength is
so
one,
strategically
to the end.
irrelevant that historians would later call it the dumbest war in galactic history. But here's the thing about dumb wars. They feel smart when you're inside them. They feel necessary. They feel like destiny. And then some human private shared his sandwich. Not a treaty. Not a surrender. Not a glorious last stand. A sandwich. The Viri Dominion had never seen bread before. They'd never tasted salt. They'd never understood that thing humans do. That stupid, reckless, biologically insane thing where they offer food to something that could kill them. That's how the war ended. That's always how it ends with humans. You just don't know it yet. The war had been going on for so long that neither side remembered why it started. Commander Sarala Vex of the United Earth Coalition Fleet knew this because she'd read the classified files, all 400,000 pages of them, and still couldn't find a single good reason. Something about mining rights. Something about territorial boundaries. Something about a diplomatic insult delivered 3 generations ago by someone whose great-grandchildren were now dead. Standard galactic war stuff. Sarala stood on the observation deck of the UEC Indomitable, watching the Viri battle cruiser drift on the edge of sensor range. It looked like a collection of broken glass shards held together by spite. Beautiful in a horrible way. The Viri built their ships to mimic their own crystalline biology. Angular, sharp, refracting light into 1,000 tiny rainbows that danced across the void. Pretty for something that had killed 40,000 humans last month alone. The fleet's getting restless, Commander. Lieutenant Marcus Webb appeared beside her, coffee in hand, dark circles under his eyes. He looked like he hadn't slept since the war started. He probably hadn't. Engineering says the reactors can't take another full burn. Medical says we're down to 60% combat ready. Morale says I know what morale says. Sarala knew exactly what morale said. Morale said, we're losing. Morale said, they're never going to negotiate. Morale said, we should have stayed in our own damn solar system and let the Viri have their stupid rock. But the United Earth Coalition didn't back down. That was the whole point of humanity, wasn't it? The whole point of being the species that evolved on a death planet, that crawled out of the primordial soup with nothing but stubbornness and thumbs. Humans didn't back down. Humans doubled down. Humans looked at certain death and said, hold my beer. It was humanity's greatest strength and its most embarrassing character flaw. New orders from command, Webb said, handing her a datapad. They want us to push forward. Aggressive maneuvers. Show the Viri we mean business. Sarala read the orders. Then she read them again. Then she wanted to throw the datapad into the nearest star. They want us to die, she said flatly. These are suicide orders. They want us to demonstrate resolve. That's the same thing with better PR. Webb shrugged, a gesture he perfected over 3 years of war. They're scared, Commander. The coalition's scared. The Viri keep winning, and nobody knows why. Intelligence says they're running on fumes, but they fight like they've got infinite resources. It doesn't make sense. Sarala stared at the Viri ship. Something about it bothered her. Something she couldn't quite name. Have you noticed, she said slowly, that they never actually finish us? Sir, the Viri, they always let us retreat. They always leave one ship intact. They always, she stopped, because the thought was ridiculous. The Viri were monsters. Everyone knew that. The Viri had no concept of mercy, no capacity for negotiation, no language that humans could even translate properly. They just attacked. Relentlessly. But not fatally. Not quite fatally. Commander, with respect, I think you need sleep. Probably. Sarala handed back the datapad. Send a response to command. Tell them we'll push forward tomorrow at 0600. Tomorrow. Tonight, I'm going to think. She thought for 7 hours straight. Didn't sleep. Didn't eat. Just sat in her quarters with the lights off, staring at tactical displays, running simulations, replaying every engagement from the past 6 months. The pattern was there. She just hadn't wanted to see it. Every battle followed the same structure. The viri would appear without warning, their ships shimmering into existence like heat mirages. They'd target human vessels with surgical precision, always taking out communications first, then weapons, then propulsion. They'd board the disabled ships. They'd take prisoners, and then they'd leave. Not kill, not destroy. Take 40,000 human casualties, but only 12,000 confirmed deaths. The rest were listed as missing, presumed dead. But what if they weren't dead? What if they were captured? And why would the viri capture humans? They didn't eat them. Autopsies on recovered bodies showed no signs of consumption. They didn't torture them. The bodies that did turn up showed no evidence of prolonged suffering. They just took them, and the humans disappeared. Sarala pulled up the personnel files of every missing soldier she could access. 3,000 names. 3,000 faces, 3,000 stories cut short. She looked for patterns. Age, gender, specialty, rank, nothing obvious. The viri took pilots and cooks and mechanics and medics. They took officers and enlisted. They took the young and the old. But then she noticed something so small she almost missed it. Every single missing soldier had been alone when captured. Not isolated. There were plenty of battles where entire squads vanished, but alone in the sense that they'd been separated from their unit. Cut off. Solo. The viri didn't take groups. They took individuals. Why? Sarala rubbed her eyes and made a decision that would either save humanity or get her court-martialed. She was going to let herself be captured. The plan was insane. Webb told her so. Her second-in-command, a grizzled veteran named Chief Petty Officer Elena Costas, told her so in much more colorful language. The ship's AI, which had been programmed with something approaching personality, told her so in a tone of resigned disappointment. Sarala did it anyway. She stripped off her rank insignia. She put on a standard private's uniform. She loaded a single sidearm. Unloaded because she wasn't stupid enough to bring a weapon into enemy territory, but she wanted them to think she was. And then she waited. The viri attacked at 0602, 2 minutes after the Indomitable began its push forward. Sarala had ordered Webb to pull back the first sign of contact, to make it look like the fleet was retreating in chaos. The viri would pursue, as they always did. And in the confusion, Sarala would drift. She'd modified an emergency escape pod to look like debris. Minimal life signs. Minimal power. Just a human-shaped object floating in the void, waiting to be collected. The viri collected her within 15 minutes. She felt the tractor beam grab the pod, felt the shudder of artificial gravity taking hold, felt the cold press of air cycling through the ventilation system. Then, the pod's door opened, and she saw her first viri. It was beautiful. That was her first thought, before fear could catch up. The viri stood about 7 feet tall, its body composed of translucent crystal formations that pulsed with soft bioluminescence. Colors shifted across its surface, deep blues and purples, flashes of gold, occasional bursts of red. It had no face that she could recognize, no eyes or mouth or features. Just facets, just light, and yet, somehow, it seemed to be looking at her. "Hello," Sarala said. The viri made a sound like wind chimes breaking. Then it reached out with a crystalline limb, smooth, warm, strangely gentle, and touched her temple. The world went white. She woke up in a room that couldn't exist. The viri didn't build structures. That's what human intelligence had always said. They didn't have cities or habitats or any of the infrastructure that defined galactic civilization. They just existed. Ships appeared. Ships fought. Ships vanished. But this was definitely a room. Walls of crystal, yes, but shaped into something approaching geometry. A floor. A ceiling. A door. And light. Soft, warm light that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. Sarala sat up. She was on a bed. An actual bed with blankets and pillows and everything. The blankets were the wrong texture, too smooth, too cool, but someone had clearly tried to make her comfortable. Someone had tried. Human. The voice came from everywhere. Not loud. Not threatening. Just present. Like the room itself was speaking. My name is Sarala Vex. Commander, United Earth Coalition Fleet. Serial number. We know who you are. A viri stepped through the wall. No door. No opening. Just walked through crystal like it was water. This one was smaller than the one that had captured her. Maybe 5 feet tall. And its colors were softer. Pastels. Pinks and lavenders and pale greens. We have watched you, the viri said. For many cycles. You are different. Different how? You do not wish to kill us. Sarala blinked. I'm a soldier. Of course I wish to kill you. You're the enemy. The viri tilted its body, a gesture that might have meant confusion. You are wrong. You wish to stop us. You do not wish to kill us. There's a difference. What difference? The viri didn't answer. Instead, it moved closer, its crystalline surface humming with something that might have been curiosity. You came alone. You left your weapon empty. You did not fight when we took you. I wanted to understand. Understand what? Why you're fighting us? The viri was silent for a long moment. The colors on its surface shifted through a spectrum Sarala had never seen before. Colors that didn't have names in human language. Colors that seemed to exist somewhere between visible light and something else. Come, the viri said. We will show you. They showed her everything. The viri weren't a warrior species. They never had been. They were scientists, philosophers, artists, beings of contemplation and creation. Their crystalline bodies weren't weapons. They were sensory organs, designed to perceive the universe in ways organic species couldn't imagine. But perception had a cost. The viri were dying. Not from war. Not from disease. From loneliness. Sarala learned this as she walked through the crystal ship. If walked was the right word for moving through spaces that didn't obey Euclidean geometry. She saw rooms full of captured objects, paintings from human museums, musical instruments from a dozen worlds, books and poems and photographs. She saw viri gathered around these objects, their colors flickering with something that looked like longing. You collect things, she said. We collect meaning. The smaller viri, who introduced itself as Vrinor, though the name translated poorly, guided her through a corridor that seemed to fold in on itself. Your species creates meaning. You take chaos and impose order. You take silence and make music. You take emptiness and fill it with story. So we cannot. Sarala stopped walking. What do you mean you cannot? Vrinor's colors dimmed. We perceive. We record. We analyze. But we do not create. We have never created. Our minds are mirrors, not lamps. We reflect the universe. We do not illuminate it. But you built ships. You built weapons. You borrowed, adapted, copied. The viri's voice carried something that sounded almost like shame. Every technology we possess came from other species. Every idea, every thought. We are empty, hollow. We see the beauty of the universe, but we cannot add to it. Sarala thought about this. She thought about the war, about the viri's strange reluctance to finish what they started, about the prisoners, the humans who had disappeared into these crystal ships. The soldiers you captured, she said slowly. You didn't kill them. No. You didn't torture them. No. What did you do? Vrinor led her to a door. An actual door with a handle and everything clearly made by human hands. We asked them to teach us. The door opened. Behind it was a classroom. Not a classroom in the traditional sense. There were no desks, no chalkboards, no educational posters on the walls. But there were humans, dozens of them, dressed in mismatched clothing, sitting in a rough circle while a viri stood in the center. The viri's colors pulsed in slow, rhythmic patterns. The humans watched. Some of them smiled. Private First Class Marcus Chun, Sarala said, recognizing a face from the missing persons files. You've been dead for 8 months. Marcus looked up. He looked healthy, happy even. His uniform was gone, replaced by something woven from what looked like crystal thread, and his hair had grown long enough to tie back. But his eyes were the same. Alert, curious, alive. Commander, He stood up, brushed off his pants, and gave her a salute that was technically correct, but entirely inappropriate given the circumstances. Welcome to the Viri Dominion. Sorry about the kidnapping. It's the only way they know how to make friends. Make friends. Marcus gestured at the Viri in the center of the circle. Meet Vritel. He's learning to tell jokes. He's terrible at it, but he's getting better. The Viri, Vritel, emitted a sound that might have been a greeting or a death threat. With Viri, it was hard to tell. He says he's been practicing. Marcus translated. He wants to know if you'd like to hear his first original joke. Sarala stared at him. You can understand them? We're learning. They're learning. That's kind of the whole thing, Commander. Marcus walked over to her, his bare feet silent on the crystal floor. The Viri aren't trying to kill us. They never were. They're trying to absorb us. Not in a scary hive mind way. In a we want to understand how you think way. They're lonely. They've been alone in this galaxy for millions of years, and they don't know how to connect with other species except by taking them apart and studying them. And then the war? The war was a misunderstanding. Marcus's face darkened. The coalition attacked first, 30 years ago. Some admiral got trigger happy over that mining dispute, and the Viri defended themselves. But they didn't understand why we were fighting. They thought it was a game, a ritual. They didn't know we were actually dying. Sarala sat down heavily on the crystal floor. They didn't know. They don't feel pain the way we do. They don't fear death the way we do. When we shot at them, they thought we were playing, showing off. They didn't realize we meant it until humans started dying. And by then, they didn't know how to stop. So they kept fighting. They kept pretending to fight. Marcus sat down beside her. Every battle, they pulled their punches. Every engagement, they let us retreat. They took prisoners so they could learn about us, so they could figure out how to communicate, how to apologize, how to make us stop hurting ourselves. Sarala closed her eyes. The weight of 3 years of war pressed down on her chest. All those deaths, all that destruction, all that grief. For nothing. For misunderstanding. The coalition won't believe this, she said. I know. Command will call me a traitor. Probably. They'll keep fighting. Marcus was quiet for a moment. Then, he said, That's why you're here, Commander. Not to negotiate. Not to broker peace. You're here to understand something the coalition has forgotten. What's that? Marcus looked at the Viri in the circle, at Vritel, whose colors were shifting through soft, gentle hues. The Viri aren't our enemies. They never were. They just lost. And they need someone to show them the way home. The next 3 days changed everything. Sarala walked through the Viri ship like a tourist in a dream. She saw their archives, millions of years of observations, recordings, analyses of civilizations that had risen and fallen before humanity learned to walk upright. She saw their art, if you could call it art, though the Viri insisted they had no word for the concept. She saw their grief, their joy, their desperate, aching need for connection. She also saw their fear. The Viri were terrified, not of humans specifically, of everything, of the galaxy's endless silence, of the loneliness that stretched between stars, of the possibility that they might be the only beings in the universe who saw reality clearly, but couldn't touch it. Their crystalline bodies let them perceive subatomic particles and gravitational waves and the quantum foam of spacetime itself, but they couldn't hold a hand. They couldn't hug a child. They couldn't sit around a campfire and tell stories. They could only watch, and record, and ache. Why us? Sarala asked Vrinor on her 3rd day. They were sitting in a chamber that overlooked a nebula, a vast cloud of gas and dust pregnant with new stars. There are hundreds of species in the galaxy. Thousands. Why did you come to humanity? Vrinor's colors flickered. Because you are the strangest. Strangest how? Other species fight to survive. You fight for fun. Other species create art to express beauty. You create art to express pain. Other species seek meaning. You invent meaning where none exists. The Viri paused. You are not rational. You are not logical. You are not predictable. You are human. Is that a compliment? I do not know. Vrenor's colors shifted towards something that looked like orange, warmth, maybe affection. But I think it is. Sarala laughed. She hadn't laughed in months. The sound surprised her, rough and rusty, like a machine starting up after years of disuse. Can I tell you something? She said. Please. I came here to die. The words hung in the air between them. I thought the Viri would kill me. I thought I'd be a martyr. I thought the coalition would use my death as propaganda to keep the war going. And now I don't want to die. Sarala looked at the nebula, at the stars being born in its depths, at the violent, beautiful, impossible process of creation. Now I want to go home, and I want to bring you with me. Vrenor was silent for a long time. When it spoke again, its voice was softer than she'd ever heard it. Humanity will not accept us. Probably not. They will fear us. Definitely. They will try to destroy us. Almost certainly. Then why? Sarala stood up. She looked at the Viri, at this being of light and crystal, this creature who had spent millions of years alone in the dark, watching the universe spin past without ever touching it. Because, she said, that's what humans do. We befriend the monster. We invite the vampire inside. We share our sandwich with the enemy. It's stupid. It's reckless. It gets us killed half the time. And the other half, Sarala smiled. The other half, we change the galaxy. She returned to the indomitable 3 days after she'd left. Webb almost shot her. Costas almost hugged her. The ship's AI announced her return in a tone of mild surprise, as if it had already written her obituary and was annoyed to have to delete it. You look different, Webb said, studying her face. I feel different. Did they hurt you? No. Sarala sat in her command chair, her ship, her life, and felt like a stranger in her own skin. They taught me something. Taught you what? How to end a war. She spent the next week compiling evidence. Recordings, translations, testimonies from the missing soldiers, all of whom were alive, all of whom were willing to return, all of whom spoke of the Viri with something that sounded like love. She sent her report to Coalition Command. They sent back a single word. No. She sent it again with additional evidence. They sent back, stand down, Commander. This is an order. She sent it a third time with a personal message attached. The war is a mistake. The Viri are not our enemies. They never were. Please, let me show you. Command's response arrived 12 hours later. It wasn't a word. It was a fleet. The coalition sent 73 ships to arrest Sarala for treason. They sent their best admirals, their toughest marines, their most loyal officers. They sent weapons and warships and the full, terrible might of human military power. What they didn't send was curiosity. No one asked to see Sarala's evidence. No one asked to speak to the returned prisoners. No one asked why a decorated commander would throw away her career, her freedom, her life for an enemy species. They just came. With guns. With orders. With the cold, mechanical certainty of people who had decided that understanding was weakness. Sarala watched them arrive on the Indomitable's view screen. 73 ships. 73 chances to choose peace. All of them choosing war. Webb, she said quietly. Sir, open a channel to the Viri flagship. You mean the enemy flagship? I mean the Viri flagship. Webb hesitated. Then he did it. The channel opened. Vrenor appeared on the screen, or rather, Vrenor's colors appeared, shifting through the spectrum and patterns that Sarala had learned to read. Fear, hope, confusion. Why are you calling us? Vrenor, Sarala said. I need your help. We cannot fight your people. We will not. Not fighting. Talking. Sarala gestured at the coalition fleet. They're going to attack. They're going to try to destroy this ship and everyone on it. And when they do, I need you to do something for me. What? Don't fight back. The silence stretched across light years. Vrenor's colors went dark, the Viri equivalent of shock. You're asking us to die. I'm asking you to trust me. Sarala's voice cracked. I know that's insane. I know I haven't earned it. I know we've spent 30 years killing each other over nothing. But I'm asking you anyway. Don't fight back. Let them see. Let them see. See what? See that you're not monsters. See that you're just lonely. See that the only thing you've ever wanted is someone to share the dark with. The Viri flagship's colors shifted. Slowly at first. Then, faster. A cascade of light that rippled across its crystalline surface like water breaking through a dam. We trust you, Vrinor said. We do not understand why. But we trust you. Sarala closed her eyes. Thank you. The battle lasted 17 minutes. The coalition fleet opened fire the moment the indomitable refused to stand down. Plasma bolts, missiles, kinetic rounds, everything they had, aimed at a single ship and the crystal vessel floating beside it. Sarala ordered her crew to hold fire. They obeyed. Barely. The Viri held fire too. Their ships drifted in the void, taking hit after hit, their crystalline surfaces cracking and shattering under the onslaught. But it didn't shoot back, didn't defend themselves, didn't do anything except broadcast a single message on every frequency, in every language, repeated over and over, "We are sorry. We did not understand. Please stop. We want to be your friends." The coalition kept firing for 17 minutes. And then something impossible happened. The humans on the coalition ships, the soldiers, the pilots, the technicians, the cooks, started refusing orders. Not all of them. Not even most of them. But enough. Enough to matter. Enough to make the admirals pause. Sir, the gunnery crew on the Victory is standing down. Sir, the Dauntless reports their missile crews are refusing to load. Sir, we're getting reports of mutiny. Across the fleet, Admiral Helena Cross, commander of the Coalition Task Force, stared at her tactical display. She was a good officer, a loyal officer. She had spent 30 years serving humanity, and she believed, truly believed, that she was doing the right thing. But she was also a mother, and she had just watched a 17-minute video of Viri prisoners, Viri children, singing human lullabies in broken English. "Cease fire," she said. Her tactical officer blinked. "Sir, I said cease fire. All ships. Now." The firing stopped. The silence that followed was louder than any explosion. Sarala met Admiral Cross in the wreckage. The Indomitable was gone, destroyed in the first wave of the attack. So was the Viri flagship. So were dozens of other ships on both sides. The void was filled with debris and bodies and the slow, terrible drift of things that would never be whole again. But Sarala was alive, and Vrinor was alive, and somehow, impossibly, they had both made it to the same escape pod. Cross looked at them, the human commander and the crystalline alien, and started to cry. "I didn't know," she said. "I didn't know." "None of us did," Sarala replied. "But we know now. What do we do?" Sarala looked at Vrinor. The Viri's colors were dim, grief dark, loss heavy, but beneath the sorrow, something else flickered. Something that looked like hope. "We start over," Sarala said. "We learn to talk. We learn to listen. We learn to share our sandwiches." Cross laughed, a wet, broken sound. "Sandwiches? The Viri have never tasted bread. It's tragic, honestly." Vrinor's colors brightened. "We would like to try this sandwich." Sarala smiled. "I know a guy." Ending the war didn't end because someone won. It didn't end because of a treaty or a surrender or a glorious last stand. It ended because a human private shared his sandwich with a Viri soldier who had never tasted bread before. It ended because that Viri soldier, whose name was Vritel, who had been learning to tell jokes, who was terrible at it but getting better, offered the private a piece of crystal in return. A small thing, a pretty thing, a thing that caught the light and turned it into rainbows. The private didn't know what to do with the crystal. He put it in his pocket. He forgot about it. The Viri didn't know what to do with the sandwich. They ate it. They cried. They spent the next 6 months reverse engineering the concept of flavor and discovering that the universe contained more than light and sound and the cold mathematics of physics. It contained salt. It contained bread. It contained the stupid, reckless, biologically insane act of offering food to something that could kill you. That's how the war ended. That's always how it ends with humans. They don't win through strength or strategy or superior firepower. They win by being the strangest species in the galaxy, the one that befriends the monster, invites the vampire inside, shares its sandwich with the enemy. It's stupid. It's reckless. It gets them killed half the time. But the other half, they change the galaxy.